business, biceps, a little BS. Fitness mixed with finance, now you're really gonna see us as we're learning, growing. All your minds we're blowing, earning while we're burning. Shirts are tight, so games are showing. Resolve, evolve, absolve. It's time to make a move. Better check yourself, cause if you're doubting, no, we got the proof. Voices speaking loud, cause we're proud about what we can do. Tickling your ears with CPE, rooted in the truth.
Super excited you came over from Texas.
Yes.
So where from Texas are you originally?
I'm in the Austin area as a point of reference, but I live in Round Rock, actually.
Round Rock. And
Yeah.
now that rock is truly round.
It actually is truly round.
So I've been there, and I beg to differ. But we're not going to argue about that point today. No, we have. So remind me how I say your last name. Is it Canepa?
No.
Canepa?
No.
Conestoga?
Canepa.
Laurie Canepa.
Not my fault.
All right. So do I say StevenDouglas? Is it French? Or
It's Italian.
Okay. Would you like to introduce your company and what you
Yes,
do?
of course.
Please do.
So my name is Laurie Canepa. I am with StevenDouglas. I'm the Managing Director for Accounting and Finance over Texas, which means I'm over the whole state of Texas, which means
The entire state.
The entire state.
Texas is a big state.
It's a big state. So Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, and then everything in between. Within StevenDouglas, we typically regionalize them, but they thought Texas was enough. They're like,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Texas. So we are a 41-year-old brand, but we are a newer brand to Texas. So they hired me 4 years ago to expand their brand there. So we're in about 27 markets across the U.S., based out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We actually are a top 20 executive search firm, which we're super proud of. I think
Top 20.
Top 20.
Great.
We broke in the top 20 last year, I believe.
Super exciting.
Which is great. We do a lot of things. Accounting and finance is our core, but we also do HR search, interim, supply chain, technology, and then some other little smaller niches. And we do both contingency and retained search, which not everybody knows what that is. But if you want to know what that is,
we're definitely getting into contingency and retained search.
Right, which
That
are
sounds
totally
riveting.
different. Which are totally different. So I think our differentiator is most of the people on the accounting and finance team do come from a background like myself and you, right?
Okay.
I used to be a former controller, started on public accounting, and we'll probably talk about this later, but it does make a difference.
I think so, yes.
Absolutely, for sure. So born and raised in the Northeast, though, so I'm not real Texan.
You're a transplant?
I'm kind of a Texan. I mean, I can say y'all.
Oh,
but
that's what matters. And you wear boots.
And I wear boots.
What kind of boots do you wear?
Tacovas.
Hey! Bang, 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 bang.
Plug for you, James man. So born and raised in the Northeast, in Connecticut, in a small town called Watertown, and then was recruited to play D1 college soccer in Charleston, South Carolina, Charleston Southern. Long story, met my husband playing in a soccer tournament in Lake Placid, New York, moved to the Bay Area, was there during the good times, the dot-coms, 98 to 2001, and that's where I started my career in public accounting. So, all that.
So just for context for our 7,400 listeners, so you and I met because I saw a picture that was posted by Nick Araco Jr. of the CFO Alliance, who we both know and love, and the venue where you guys were meeting was at a soccer stadium, or at least my question was, is that a soccer stadium?
Yes.
And then you came back with, of course it is, and then the friendship started from there.
Right.
Then we got on the phone with each other. It's like, hey, let's meet. It was like one of those LinkedIn, clandestine. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? And so it's like, so we should talk. Let's talk. We get on the phone, and all of a sudden, guys, I just want to give you some context. If you have a conversation with Laurie and it's like an unsolicited conversation where it's just like, hey, let's kind of feel each other out here, you will not speak for the first 7 minutes. And which is okay, because it was like, blah, like what you just experienced in the last 3 minutes is what I had to endure for 7
I'm working on
minutes.
it.
I actually I started a timer, and in fact, and once I was done, I took a snapshot. I sent it to Nick, and I said, "Just met Laurie." He goes, "Oh, she's the best." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, my ears sweating, my heart's beating fast. Like, what just happened to me?" No, it was actually very pleasurable because everybody finally said that they said, "Oh, so she talks as much as you?" I was like, hold the phone.
I was going to say, look in the mirror, man.
Hold the phone. I don't talk that much, comma. Yeah, so it was a really, really fun way to meet you. And now we're meeting in person, the devil in the green dress. And you have, this is the first time we've had a studio audience, so maybe if our laugh track will work, so let's try it out. Laugh track. All right, let's get some applause.
There you go.
These are fantastic.
So
Can we
cool.
get that one random guy laughing in the back? There it is. Oh man, these guys are great. We had to try out new studio audience with them. I'll tell you what. So very excited that this is our first studio audience. We are getting much bigger than I thought, much faster, which means that we have now 7 people that listen to this show. Very excited to have you here. And so one of the things that I really think is interesting about what you do in particular, we were talking earlier during our 7-minute just go session, is that in finance and accounting, there are a handful of issues that are now coming, like just bubbling to the surface that I keep seeing on LinkedIn. I was going to start with one, and it'll lead us into a whole bunch of rabbit trails that I hope that we can play with.
Sure.
And also, as you already have, weave in what you want me to know about StevenDouglas and everything that you guys are doing, because we will have a purposeful time where we say, stop. This part is sponsored by StevenDouglas, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's StevenDouglas." So we will definitely get into that. But I really want to jump into this. There's a dichotomy forming on LinkedIn, specifically about finance versus accounting.
Right.
And one of the things I think I may have tagged a couple things to you. And you're like, "Oh yeah, let's light them up. Let's go get them." And I love that passion. It's like straight out of Texas, right? So everybody's going out there and they're saying, okay, accounting. In case you were confused about what these disciplines do, accounting is the one where you look back in history and you guys are like glorified historians. You're all about reporting the past, and then finance is the glamorous future. Yeah, I'm looking into the crystal ball. I'm looking into the future. I'm making plans and strategies, and I'm sitting here thinking, isn't it like kind of one and the same? If you do a pro forma, and your pro forma doesn't match what the accounting rules say, when you finally get to those months that you planned out in the future, you're going to have, it's a harsh reality where it's like, oh, you're going to smack it into the wall and say, oh, those assumptions don't work. So the finance crowd says we're forward looking. The accounting crowd is like, hey, wait a second, why are you guys putting us back in the box we've been trying so hard to get out of? And then you have these FP&A people just kind of float in on top and go, hey, we're just kind of the best of both worlds. And so I don't know where to go with you got fractional CFOs, you got fractional controllers, you got, I mean, there are people everywhere staking their claims to all of these types of functions. And I don't know if I want the accounting and finance world to be fractured like that. I think that we're weaker when we approach it that way. Now, I do know that there's certain disciplines, certain things that you're going to be, niche oriented. Totally fine, but then if we keep drawing lines inside this discipline, the multidisciplinary finance world, then I think we're going to be more territorial, and then it's going to be one of those things that you see playing out on LinkedIn, where people are like pick a side, sharks versus jets. Which one? Which one are you going to take? Which one are you going to take? So, what are your opinions on this? You're in this world. You hire you place people in finance, accounting, and what have you. Is there a difference?
I mean, there's a difference, but I think there should be really more of a blend, right? They should be partners. They should not be, separate. I mean, when we're recruiting, we definitely define which one you're talking about, right? I mean, even because role titles aren't everything, right? Like sometimes you get
some.
To some. Well, like look at you. I said, what are you, like CFO or what? You're
something like that.
I'm like, but on LinkedIn it says you're head of finance.
I'm like the banana guy.
I think, when, like for instance, we get a CFO job. We always say, okay, like which one are we talking about? Are we talking about like CFO, bigger picture, forward-thinking finance person, or are we thinking about someone who comes from more an accounting route, right? But I also think they want to keep themselves separate because it's like lack of accountability. Like, wasn't our fault. Well, no, it's your fault. It's like pointing fingers, right? Like our numbers didn't work out. Well, not us. We just do the day-to-day. It's up to the finance team, right? So I think there's a little bit of that going on, right? It's like, well, we don't want to play the blame game. But I do think like the best finance and accounting functions, because there is a difference, really do try to work together. And I think, FP&A you mentioned specifically, I mean, my best FP&A people do come from an accounting and finance background because their ability to interact with the accounting team, they sat in that seat before. They understand what they're looking for. They understand, like, I understand what you're talking about, right? Those kinds of things. But I do see the two between sides, and I think that's kind of a newer thing of, like on the two things, like as far as I own this side, you own that side.
Yeah, and so I think it really comes down to, and this is what I kind of called out a few folks on LinkedIn for it, but that is that can the people in finance stop trying to make excuses as to why they never went and got their accounting degree? So I'm an accounting guy. I love my accounting. I love the discipline. You play the beautiful game. Mm-hmm. It is the beautiful discipline. Yeah. I think when you look in all the years past and what accounting's been able to bring us, the scales, the dual entry, the monks that have invaded all these cathedrals with all of their knowledge and all of their candles and things. I mean, they were doing it back in the 1400s on craggy rocks, and we're still doing it today with better tools, I think, and probably air conditioning, but and no plague. But it has survived the times because it's one of those things that you can build upon. It just makes sense. Now, you do have to learn how to speak the language, right?
Right.
Where finance, I think, is more math-oriented. It's like, oh yeah, that formula works out. This ratio works. Well, now you have to understand what that ratio is even telling you.
Sure.
So now you look back in the financials and, I need an accountant, right?
Right.
So
right.
this FP&A thing, it's come on strong within the past 10, 15 years. I want to understand these people.
Yep.
Tell me about who is the FP&A professional?
I mean, you see them come up both paths, right? And to go back a little bit, what finance doesn't understand is you can't do anything without accounting.
True.
So,
True.
crap in, crap out. Right?
Feather hat. There it is.
Like if you don't have the data and if it's crappy data, guess what? Yeah, your projections are going to look crappy, right?
Yep.
So you have to get along. I mean, if anything, your job depends on it, right? I mean, it's kind of like why when we see hiring through the quarters, like we see more accounting jobs more towards the end of the quarter, and then as the quarter comes out, then you see more finance-oriented jobs. So FP&A, I mean, I see FP&A professionals come up both paths, but I'd say my strongest FP&A people are really who started out with a core in accounting. I think there's a difference between an FP&A analyst and a financial analyst. I think that's the difference. When you see FP&A, you typically have someone who's come from more of an accounting, an accounting foundation, then transition to the finance side of the house. When you get a financial analyst, you will usually see them never touch accounting. They've come up just if they have a finance degree, they're going for their MBA, those kind of things. So that's usually where I see the difference between the two. Typically, our clients too, their most favorite FP&A people are the people that have started out, and they see them as a bridging that gap between finance and accounting, right?
I think that's a great way to describe them, because one of the things that I struggle with is again the territorial nature that people are they're fracturing this discipline, and I think that there are elements of all of them, right? And in order for you to be a great FP&A person, you're saying you have to borrow from both. If you're a finance person, is a finance person necessarily an accounting person? Maybe, but an accounting person necessarily finance? Not really, but I think they share certain things. It's not that the accountants can't be forward-looking as well. We're just told you shouldn't do it because no one should be guaranteeing future numbers based off of what we have here, right? It's all assumptions, right? Whereas the finance people, they look at it and they say, well, I want to put a ratio on this, I want to put this, and I think we're going to be here. It's more guesstimate work, right? But I think you're right. I think there needs to be that rooted in the historical function. I had a student ask me the other day, we were talking about pro formas, and so I'm a professor at SCAD, and I'm teaching a class called Strategic Financial Management, which I think I told you before is like three large words of basically saying of how not to get screwed in business. And so we're looking at, we're starting with a cost, volume, profit analysis. It's essentially a cost accounting course. And you run up through, you make a pro forma. In the first 5 weeks, you are doing an investor presentation. And then that investor presentation, surprise, you're going to get funded, because otherwise the next 5 weeks, I think the administration would be really upset if I gave the students the next 5 weeks off. So now you're running your company. And you're taking your pro forma, you're turning it into a budget, and another surprise, your pro forma is your budget, right? And then by the end of the 10 weeks, you're doing an annual shareholder meeting. And why do you do that? Because it's about investor relationships. It's about thanking them for giving you the money. It's about, hey, this is what we did. These are the challenges we overcame. We are the management team that are going to take you to the next level. And let me tell you where we're going to go, right? But I had a student ask me about, well, so how would we do the budget for year one? And I was like, well, first of all, we need to rewind, because we just spent the last 4 weeks talking about this, so maybe I moved a little fast. But I was telling her, like, in year two, when you make your budget, you have the ability to look back 1 year and you say, okay, well, this is what we budgeted. This is what actually happened. And so when you build your budget, what are you going to build it off of next year? You're going to build it off your actuals, because that makes more sense, right? Our budget was a guess. Our actuals actually happened. And so she goes, but then how do you build the first year budget? I was like, oh, hold on a second. Hold on.
Hello?
Do you remember all that research we did for the last 3 weeks to kind of find out, like, what are the material costs? What are the labor costs? What are all these things? She goes, oh, you research it. Like, yes, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So year one is based off of research, because hopefully you've done a bunch of research before you even started the business to see if this is going to make any money. And then in year 2 and year 3 and year 4, you're just looking back and doing a little bit more of the same, tweaking here and there.
Sure.
What I think is interesting is that so those little things that you learn, and I know that's not like a big lesson, but those are little things that you learn when you come into the profession, right?
Sure.
I was like, same as last year. You've heard that the whole Sally thing. Yeah, it's horrible. So as you are now transition that into talent. Mm-hmm. You said that there's the FP&A person. You made a distinction between an FP&A analysis and a financial analyst, right? When you are out there looking for talent for your clients,
sure.
I mean, who are they looking for these days?
God, that's like a big question. like on the finance side of the house?
Both sides. I'm just like, so our listeners are finance and accounting, right? And we have a lot of students that listen to it, so they're probably hoping like, okay, what kind of skill levels do you need to be? You guys are obviously more of the experienced hires,
sure,
right? So we'll go to the mentoring side in just a second, but for the people that are out there, I'll call them the mature professionals that are maybe looking for a career change,
sure,
or maybe just a horizontal because they just want to get a different environment. Who are those people?
I mean, I think most people on the accounting side, most of our hiring managers, because they're coming to us to find something they can't find on their own. So you have to remember, they're coming to us to find not something that you post up on LinkedIn or a post. They're saying, okay, we've vetted that out. Now help us find like the cream of the crop, right? Mm-hmm. So they're typically on the accounting side, depending upon the company, the size, whether they're publicly traded, whether they're smaller. They're looking for the public accounting background. They love the public accounting background. That doesn't always have to be Big Four. There's been lots of our clients that are actually like, I don't like Big Four, right? Like I want somebody who's been a little bit more gritty, a little bit more, in a smaller environment. But they do like that core fundamental understanding, because coming from public accounting myself, one of the things it gave me was this ability to be versatile, right? So you have to come into an environment you've never seen before, figure it out pretty quickly, and look at an industry you never looked at before. It really teaches you that analytical way to think, right? So most of our clients do typically like, because we work everything from senior accountant to CFO, they do like on the accounting side of the house, they tend to like the public accounting background, because they feel like that person's going to be able to handle whatever gets thrown at them, right, as far as that goes. But again, because we talked about this, and you talked about this on your post about the paper ceiling.
Yes.
Then I have clients that are like, I could care less. The experience for me like far outweighs everything else. I'm a $10 million company on QuickBooks. I don't want to pay for a CPA. I don't need one. I don't need public accounting. I need someone who can come in and close my books in a $10 million manufacturing company, right?
Nice, yeah.
So, and then the finance side of the house, they love to see someone who's got obviously the bachelor's degree in finance. Someone typically who's on MBA track is always advantageous, obviously. But a lot of times my candidates, which this crowd might be coming out of public accounting, I always tell my candidates going to public accounting, I'm super patient with you because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And a lot of them want to transition right into finance. Do I see it happen? Yeah, but rarely. And I'm talking on the audit side of the house, right? So if you're transitioning out of audit, you really do, even if you want to be an FP&A, I always advise them at least spend a little time in accounting first. You can still be, I'm not saying you don't not be honest about wanting to be on the FP&A track. I'm saying get that foundation if you want to be an FP&A in accounting, and that's going to be it's not even a seamless transition. The transitioning from audit to internal accounling, there's a learning curve regardless,
yes, there is.
right?
Yes, there is.
Different than tax, right?
Yeah.
Like tax.
Well, you actually learn how to run a business as opposed to
and
just
print
pick
a
it
check
apart.
out of NetSuite. Like when was the last time you printed a check out of QuickBooks, right? So I always advise coming out of public accounting, and I always tell my candidate, I'm always patient with all of our candidates, but go on interviews. That tells you, like, sometimes what you think you want isn't what you think you want. And I have a really good example. I had a guy who grew up in a Dell family. I'm in Round Rock. I'm in Dell. Yeah. Plug for Dell. You're welcome.
You're talking about the computers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dell.
Very good.
Dell's headquartered.
Thank you, Mike.
I love them. They have the first female CFO ever, by the way, which is awesome. He grew up in a Dell family. Really swore that he wanted to work at Dell. Coming right out of public accounting, and I said, "Great, we'll get you an interview at Dell." Right. So he gets an interview at Dell. He comes back and he's like, "I so don't want to work at Dell." And I'm like, "Well, why?" He's like, my job is going to be auditing one specific piece of revenue recognition.
Oh, man.
I'm like, "Well, that's not really a Dell thing. That's a big, large, publicly traded billion-dollar company thing. So what does that tell you? He's like, I don't want to go that big. I want more visibility. I want a broader role. He goes, but I don't want to go too small, because I've seen people do this too. I've seen people come out of public accounting and go too small, where it's like there's no one around them to help, and then they tell me they're making best educated guesses, which hurts my stomach. That they're making best educated. When you tell me you're getting best educated guesses on accounting, that like stresses me out. So, but he says, I think maybe like more mid-market company, which is really the majority of what's in Austin anyways, is companies between 50 to 500 million. So that's what we did. But he wouldn't have known that unless he went on the interview, and I can tell him all day long, because I think that's their biggest fear coming out of public. I think you get to a crossroad in public accounting. Either it's the firm, and I always ask my candidates this, is it the firm that you, like, do you like the work? Because maybe it's just the firm that you're working with. Because the cultures are so different between, especially if you're coming out of Big Four, there's a lot, like whether we talk about work-life balance or, you know, types of clients, like, you know, is it, because if you still like that type of work, maybe you're not tapping on a public accounting, maybe you just need to doing it in a different place. But if you get to the same place that I did, where I was like, you know what, I want a home, I want one industry, one set of issues. I want to get, instead of being like knowledgeable at a lot and expert at nothing, I really want to get just one company, and I just like want one place. Then you kind of know that you want to transition into an industry position. So, so I don't know if that gives you everything.
Well, and so on the resume side, there's always there's people that have a lot of public accounting, and we were always told when we were talking to the headhunters, right? They say you don't want your resume to be stacked with so many years of public accounting, because then you kind of just become the public accounting person. And so we were told, and this is what, 2000-ish, when we were just starting our careers, that you want maybe 5 years in public accounting, then go do something in private and just start balancing out that plate, so that you become a little bit more robust and more attractive for those higher level positions. Well, that was also when Sarbanes-Oxley came out and said you can't go to your clients anymore, you can't get picked off. So that kind of ruined all of our career objectives. But you still do have those individuals. You were saying there's a learning curve. There is a giant learning curve from coming from public accounting to the private, and I don't think it's something that should be understated. It's truly one of those things where you spend your entire time looking at rules, looking at the regulations, looking at all these things of how these journal entries, well, you got to book a journal entry for this, but you don't really know the context of why that journal entry even exists. You just know that the account should say this at the end of the day. It's the classic example of when a student comes out of the university system, doesn't matter what university, they all have the same problem. They stumble into public accounting, and then all of a sudden they kind of look up and like, where am I? I have no idea what I'm doing. I've got either a bachelor's and master's degree. I may have my CPA license already, and I still don't know what's happening. So they say, oh, we're just going to give you cash. Like, yeah, I can do cash. I can count cash. Like, what are you talking, like a bank account or something? And they ask you to do your first bank rec. And it like melts your world. Like, this should be something that's so easy. And like in your head, you're like, this is the piece of paper that shows me what's in the bank. This is their ledger. These should match. Why isn't this working? I don't understand. And it's like, it's one of those like groundbreaking issues that you stumble across. You say, oh my gosh, I really don't know what I'm doing. Until you finally clicks one day, like, yeah, cash, reconciliation, blah 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 blah, and it just becomes second nature. But until that switch turns on, you have this moment of, could be anywhere between 6 to 18 months worth of, you're just despondent, and people around you know. It's like that those movies where it's not, I don't know if you call it a montage, but you have that person that's walking and everything around them is going so fast. You know, they're all blurry, and it's like they're like, okay, what's going on in their mind, or building character or whatever it is. But actually, what that person's thinking on the inside is that I'm not worthy enough to be around here. These people are all smarter than me. Did I make a bad decision? Right? And so that's from the student's perspective, coming out and finally learning what they're doing. Now you take somebody who has 5, 7, 10 years worth of experience, maybe in public, maybe a little bit of private, and they go into a private sector, and you should know this. You got hired because you have these skills. And now you don't know how to apply them to the day-to-day operations of a company. That's a scary prospect.
It is.
So do you have people, when you place individuals that have a public, I would say, heavily public background, do they come back to you and say, hey, this is not for me, I want to go back? I miss the rat race, I miss the hustle.
Rarely.
Yeah.
I think it's where you're going, and you mentioned before, it's that 8 to 10 year window of once you get to 8 to 10 years and having public accounting, then people aren't going to look at you as anything. And I tell candidates that all the time. I mean, you could, other than going into internal audit, right? Like that would be your only other option.
Which would be horrible.
Which would be this.
Like, there's your box. Now here's your box.
Yeah. You just have one client now. You just have one client, right?
And they all hate you.
Exactly. I'd say I rarely have people come back, but I also think it's where you're transitioning into. So, like for instance, like we work with one client. We work with eBay, right? So eBay, predominantly the majority, 90% of that team has transitioned out of public accounting. So when you go in there and surround yourself by other people who are like, oh my gosh, I totally ran across the same thing. I was feeling the same way that you felt. Let me help you out with that. So I think it's where you're transitioning into. I think like I've seen people come out of public accounting and make the mistake of going into like a standalone controller job, like smaller company. They're the only person that knows accounting and finance, and then they're kind of floundering or calling their partners 24/7 to say, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, right? And that's where I think that I've seen people do that and come back to me and say, listen, I made a I still want to do industry, but I need a redo. Right, like I didn't set myself up for success. I should have known that I knew there was going to be a learning curve. I didn't know it was going to be this extreme. I need to find a place where I'm surrounded by other people. Like I can't be top of the food chain. I'm not ready yet, right? So I would say I don't see them come back to me to go public. I'd say I see them come back to me to say, I made the wrong industry choice for the most part.
Yeah, it feels like public is the safety net. Like once you've been there, you can always go back. And again, it doesn't matter what level, but they'll always accept you back because like, okay. But there are some people. Well, there are some people there and maybe this is the public thing. Like you've been away too long. Like the rules have changed. All of a sudden, like these 200 years worth of rules have just automatically changed overnight, and you have no idea how to catch up. So there is that you run that risk of the more years you're outside of public, people are like, maybe not a director level, maybe we could bring you back as a manager, you manage the engagements, learn a little bit more, and then you pop back up. I am curious though, you mentioned how some of your talent, I realize that the people that you are putting out there, the talent that you're putting out there are looking for jobs higher up the ladder, right? With more responsibility, more, just more of everything really. And then they get into that position, interesting you say that, they get in that position, they feel like, oh my gosh, I think I'm a little over my head. So what do you do in that? I mean, because now you have someone who's maybe a vice president or a director. I'm assuming that's where you're probably good at placing those types of talents. And they come to you and say, I'm drowning here.
Right.
Do you, during the process that someone says, hey, this is what I'd like to do, are you looking at their background saying, hey, listen, I know you want this title, I know you want this, but let me tell you, I can put you there, but I've seen X, Y, Z happen, and you may be the anomaly.
Right.
Or can I set you up for success and kind of get you on like a 3-year trajectory to get to that job? Like how do you advise your clients?
Well, actually, we never get to that place because that's why they engage us. We're kind of the filter,
oh,
right?
Okay.
So like if I think someone's too light, I don't present them. Right?
Okay.
And I will tell them, I'll say, you know what, this is a great job for you maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. Because to your point, I do want to set you up for success, right? And then it's never going to be a good day because, we do work for the client at the end of the day, right? So, the client's not going to be happy, they're not going to be happy, and that's never going to be a long-term search. So I'm always very honest with them, and I think because most of us within StevenDouglas on the accounting finance side come from that background, there's a level of respect that candidates trust us when we tell them that, like, I'm looking out for your best interest. I'm not looking just to place you. So because our clients are paying us to be the filter, we usually never get to that place as far as sending someone in. Now, sometimes when they do call me in a panic, because usually it's within the first week where I just need to tell them, listen, you just need to breathe. You've been there a week, like just breathe a little bit, right? But we do stay in contact. We don't just place someone and walk away, right? So we stay in contact. I do 30, 60, 90-day touch points, both with client and with candidate, just to make sure that everybody's feeling like super happy, everyone's super happy camper, right? So that if I know that something is going south, because that's not always perfect, or if I know there's an issue, we kind of know that early on, but usually it's more of just like them, there's always a learning curve, and when you go to any new job, it's just usually them, especially my public accounting people, oh my gosh, sometimes I have to tell them to like chill out a little bit because they go into industry and they don't realize that they just need to it's not you're not a service provider anymore. Like you're not at the mercy of the service provider, and you have to have a little bit of level of patience. We work with a SaaS company in Austin, and most of their team is right out of public accounting, the revenue controller, the revenue accountant, and I was like, maybe you need to go get a hobby or something. You just need to like chill a little bit, right? Like, because because you're driving your manager crazy because you're like, do you have anything else? Do you have anything else? Do you have anything else? Right. So, and then once they actually realize, because that was, and I said, remember we always go back to what was the reason you were looking in the first place. Your whole reason is you were at a place in your life where you needed better work-life balance. You needed something more predictable. You have a young family. I said, remember all those reasons? Well, that's why you're here. So just take a minute, take a breath. You're not, I think it's like the FMO, like fear of missing out on maybe I'm missing out on something, or maybe I'm not doing a good job. I said, I check in with the client too, you're doing fine, but you do just need to chill a little bit, right? Because you're driving crazy.
That's a hard habit to break, though.
It is. It is.
Because even today, so working at the Bananas, I will show up around 7:15 in the morning because of my public accounting days, just because if I get there early, that first 2 hours before people start showing up around 9:15, it's like all of a sudden you hear someone's like, I thought I had a raccoon on the side. It's like, what's going on? It's like, what's that scurrying? Oh, that's a 23-year-old. I can get a lot of my work done in that 2 hour period, and then the onslaught of quick questions comes, and my day is completely sidelined. It doesn't matter what's on my schedule. I will end up doing everybody else's work, and it's one of those things. This is just the type of people we are. Is that someone comes and asks us for help, we want to be able to help,
right?
And so 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here, and all of a sudden the day is completely gone. And then 5 o'clock rolls around as they're like hitting the door, later, Naddy. Right. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got 3 hours that I could just work until 8 o'clock and just crush and catch up everything that I was supposed to do, and maybe get a little head start for the next day. That's just because that's the work ethic that I cut my teeth on. And you had to do that in Big Four.
Absolutely.
Right? So my background, PwC originally, and then went to Deloitte. Had also worked for Clifton Larson Allen for a little while. Oh, cool. And I worked for a small local / regional firm. So I've been kind of around the CPA world, and but they're all the same. They're all the same. There's always those handful of people that they stay later. One, because it's a little quieter. One, because they don't want to go home because the kids are just going to be like just SpaghettiOs on your pants and stuff like that. And it's coming. Yeah. But also the ones that leave early because if they don't, their wives are going to wring their necks because you should have been home at 5 o'clock. Here's your baby, right? Like, oh my gosh. So the dogs. Anyway, that was a phase of my life. That's why I had to start working out in the morning. It's like Jen's like freaking. She's like, you're coming home right after work. I was like, but we have no, there's no happy hour for you at all if you don't come home. So like, oh, the happy hour is me
it's required.
Oh,
it's
baby.
required.
This is the happiness you want, right? Like, oh, this thing's gonna spit up on me. If I'm gonna be vomited on, I want to be vomited on like with a Guinness in my hand, not with like a bottle of like rancid milk. Exactly. So
I've never shaken that though. The public accounting.
Oh, you're not supposed to shake babies.
Oh no. You know what I mean.
That's bad.
The public accounting thing, and I think the team will attest to this because I don't think my EVP has either. I do the same. I still do the same thing. I still get.
It's ingrained.
I love it. I get I'm up at 5 to 7. I'm like knocking, and I'm also catching up on. Or I'm an hour behind everybody, right? Because everybody's
You catch that, Elizabeth?
Yes. So, but
by the way, for everybody who's not here, boss is sitting elbow point right there.
But I love it because then, to your point, during the day when someone needs me, I can be like, sure, no problem, because I don't have all these other multiple priorities, right? So,
but that makes us who we are, though, and it's one of those things where. So I've been going around the country right now talking to a lot of societies of CPAs, and the CPAs, really on 2 points. One, we really need to reignite our passion for why we're doing this in the first place. Why did we get into this profession? And I know you're dealing with the people like at the talent. They want to move to another level. They want to kind of rediscover themselves. They want to find maybe they're just curious people and they just want something else. They want to put something else inside the portfolio. Totally get that, by the way. But we need to reignite our passions and find out, really rediscover our why. Why did we do this in the first place? Was it because mom and dad were CPAs and they said, hey, you just need to be a CPA. That's where my money's going into the accounting program. Or is it because you found some kind of joy in accounting and you decided you wanted to follow that passion and it became something pretty nice, right? Also, it's a pretty lucrative career. I think the people coming out, the kids coming out now are 70, 75, which by the way, kudos to public accounting. Yeah. Thank you for finally stepping up and doing your jobs.
45
oh
and 50.
My gosh, 45 and 50.
I know.
These kids are coming out. Like I'm looking across the baseball spectrum. I know people that are like cleaning jockey shorts for $45,000. Like, what is going on? You have a degree in finance and accounting.
Exactly.
No. So you have these kids. There's just that skill set, and then but what I'm finding is that it's really hard to break that mentality once you have learned it, and but there's nothing wrong with that, because I think it's in our nature that we will find times. We're very good at compartmentalizing, right? Most of us, I would say most of us are type A. Most of us are type A.
I'm not type A.
I mean, lots of letters. The OCDs, the ADDs, the ADHDs. I swear, if ADHD or ADD was around when I was a kid, I probably would have been diagnosed. And Miss Muir could have taken me away from the water fountain that she sat me by all 5th grade, because I would not listen to her boring history lectures. I had to bring home every single book in my backpack because my dad's like, "You got a D in history?" Like, and now I look back at those chapters. It was like 3 pages. It was like. What was it? The Archduke Franz Ferdinand, whatever set off World War II, World War I. And I was like, clearly I didn't read that chapter, those 3 pages. And he's like, "How can you be failing this?" Like, well, Dad, you're like a systems engineer for like NASA. Right. Of course, you could you just, and it's done. Right. I'm like reading very large words, and they're great. There's fun pictures on the page, but I just didn't care.
Yeah.
But. That's not to say that I don't care about what I'm doing now, but sometimes that carries over, where when we get in, we compartmentalize. We take, this is our project time, deep work, right? Do not disturb me during deep work, because we all know we've been there. You get into deep work, it's almost one of those things you go, like you're in the matrix. Nothing can fit. You got your earbuds in. You got maybe candles, maybe some Enya, whatever. I was crushing it. Maybe a bottle of wine. I don't know. I've had a really good time with some numbers at night. But while you're crushing this stuff, if someone comes in and goes, "Hey there, quick question for you," and you're like, "Son of a, oh my gosh." Yes. And now you're completely ripped out of that project mentality, and now you're back to the quick question mode, and then that's when 5 o'clock rolls around. Everybody's blowing out their candles, if they're allowed to have them in the office, which is weird, by the way. You shouldn't have candles in the office. But I also lived in a fraternity house, and the fire marshal said that's the #1 way for that tinder box to go up, is you have some like swanky fraternity guy, and he knocks over a candle, and then it's done. Because there are lots of flammable liquids in a fraternity house. But then we succumb to working from that 5 to 8 o'clock, and it just becomes, okay, well, now I'm just going to catch up my work, and it's okay. Yep. It's okay that we do this. It's not okay. We need to have boundaries. So the one thing is reigniting our passion, just trying to figure out, why did we get here in the first place? I mean, do we really enjoy what we do? And if we do, then okay, can we stop being the curmudgeon in the office that's looking at people and saying, "Get off my lawn, you took my stapler," all that stuff, and actually be a good mentor. You've mentioned mentorship many times, and you didn't say the word mentorship, but you kept hitting around it. That's one of the things that I think that accountants, I'll go on the accountant side because I'm more of accounting side. We're not very good at mentorship. And because when we get busy, we just kind of focus in, blinders on, we're going to get our stuff done, and damn everybody else, because, and so now you have that staff over there. It's like, hey, and like, hey, listen, I got my stuff to do because my manager's asking me what I need to do, and then I've got other clients. I'm super busy, so I don't have time to take a knee next to you and guide you through this principle that you should already know because the university should have prepared you anyway. Right. But that even happens with the middle management. That happens with upper management. It's nobody wants to take the time to teach anymore. And so we have two things. You need to reignite your passion, but you also need to like reinvest in the people that are underneath so that they want to take your place.
It's one of the top 3 reasons that people leave jobs, is because it's at not the management level, but at the people underneath there, is because they're not getting the leadership, the time, the growth, and that's where you lose. That's where you have turnover on your team, and it's when people aren't actually taking the time, with a team. I mean, it's one of the top 3 reasons. When candidates come to us and we ask them, so tell me why you opened the conversation with me. They'll be like, listen, I'm on a team. Like, I feel like I'm going to be doing the same job I am today in a year from now, and that's not growth for me. And when you ask them the reason why, they're like, I really like my manager, but my manager never. I came here because of my manager, because of his pedigree and background, and they don't ever spend any time with me. Yeah. And so that is one of the main reasons. And it's when you see turnover on a team, it usually tends to be because that's one of the reasons, anyways. Yeah. For sure.
So shatter the myth for me that when people are looking for jobs, they're not just looking for a salary bump.
Well, if they are, we really dig into that because they're at the highest risk of being a counteroffer. If someone comes to me and I say, So tell me why you're looking. Like, tell me what's your reason for looking. If they say, and if their primary and only reason, compensation can be part of it. Of course it has to be, right? But it needs to be part of the mix, not the whole thing. If they say, well, I like my company, I like my team, I like my job, I just feel like I should be paid more. I said, well, this is what we need to do first. Have you had that conversation with your hiring manager yet? Have you gone back and said, listen, I've done my market research. I know an industry expert, aka me, who's telling me that I'm paid for the company size I am, for the revenue size, for the industry, that I'm paid either at or below market. And you have to bring the data points, though. Like I tell candidates, you can't just be like, hey, give me a raise. Use specific examples of why, not just your own market research, but projects you completed, whatever it might be. And you need to vet that out before you come to me, because you are a huge counteroffer risk for me. And for everybody in the world, for counteroffer, what that means is we go down the whole path, we get them more money, and then they go back and they resign, and the company's like, well, now we love you. So now for me personally, I want to work to counteroffer because I feel like it's a slap in the face. I feel like it's like, I love you now, but I didn't love you before.
I love you, I hate you.
It took you to resign to threaten to leave, and so you are, because it is much cheaper to keep someone and to pay them more than to lose them because of the turnover of knowledge.
Agreed.
And then on the flip side of that, if you don't think now your hiring manager knows you were looking to leave. So if you don't think in the back of your mind, you just went from his A player to like his like B minus, like B, because now you're a risk for him and he knows you're a risk. So, but I always tell, I don't ever work with a candidate that hasn't vetted that out first. Then if they've had that conversation and say, listen, there's no more dollars to be had, I've already had this conversation, it's falling on deaf ears, then we have a deeper conversation about what that looks like. And I do ask candidates, if you got a counteroffer, would you take it? Because I need to know what that looks like.
Are they truthful with that?
They are truthful.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, okay. 50%.
Okay, yeah.
Some of them say, I will call them out on it when they do, though, because when I have this conversation with you first time and you tell me you'll never take a counteroffer, and we get to offer stage, would you mind? and then you say, well, I'm taking a counteroffer, I'm going to be like, listen, that's why I asked you right in the beginning. That's why I vetted it out like the very first time we talked. So, at the end of the day, I'm always respectful of people's choices, right? I think you have to make the right choice for you, your family, everything else in your career. But it's the communication surrounding that. So that's why I was asked that first, and there could be substantiating reasons at the end of the day, but I always make sure it's like a COA for myself, right? Like to make sure, we have that conversation
That's
first.
going to be really frustrating. So my wife's cousin who lives in Ponte Vedra had a search firm. It was called Titanium Search. I don't think it's around anymore, but he was doing IT consultant type people, right? So, but he said one of the hardest things you have when you're dealing with humans, you're dealing with emotions, right? It's not like you're selling a product. In fact, I don't think you can even call it selling humans anymore. But that's bad.
That might be like a
StevenDouglas does not promote.
We are not.
Yeah, we do not do that. But you're looking at what you're actually trying to provide, and your product is a person that can change their mind. And it's like, well, let me ask your wife. Have you asked your wife, before we have this conversation, go down this, have you asked your wife? Does she know that you're looking for a new job? Can I talk to her real quick? Do you know me? Hi, I'm going to help your husband find a new job. Because it's always that, well, let me ask my wife, right? I'm sure you guys understand that.
Yes.
So when you're dealing with a product who can change their mind, right? I'm sure, they probably, while they're in this process, I'm assuming you're not the only one that's looking for them. Right. They're probably playing the field and seeing what they're just like you're finding multiple candidates for your client. Sure. They're probably playing the game too. So how do you meet that out? How do you try to ferret that out to find out if they're, okay, am I the one that's helping you or like a real estate agent? Are you going to sign here and I'm going to find you your house, or are you like playing the field?
I'd say really good candidates that we're targeting aren't usually working with more than 2 or 3 firms, really. Especially not so much like the more junior level that are senior accountants, but like executive search, and I tell them, like, executive search, retained search, we're exclusive. That means that, yes, there are other opportunities. We're exclusive, which means other firms that are competitors are doing the same thing. So can they find other opportunities at those other firms? Yeah, of course. So I don't want that, I'm always about like the bigger picture. Like, yeah, if you obviously another retained search firm is going to have a search that we wouldn't have. So obviously, cast your net a bit wide, but not too wide, because you need to make sure that you're not oversaturating the market with your resume, which is a thing, by the way.
Okay.
So I would say for them, really, every time I talk to a candidate, I literally have the same conversation. What has changed since last time we talked? you're currently interviewing for XYZ company. Where does my company rank? Because I know you're talking to, good candidates that you build trust with will tell you exactly where they're interviewing and what they're interviewing for. And I literally say to them, like, listen, now that we're at the mid stage, rank my opportunity along the other ones. And if they say, well, Laura, I like the company that I'm interviewing, your client, but I'm being honest with you, like, it probably ranks number 3. So what does that tell me? That tells me I need to go find more candidates for that job, because this person, I have a 33% chance of that person taking that job because I'm third up to bat. And it also tells me when the client comes to me and says, how are your candidates feeling about it? We know that this is not that candidate's top choice. So we can be more of an advisor to our client to say, hey, I know you like Jim Bob, but we need to go find more candidates because we know he's talking to 2 or 3 other companies that are more of his top choice. So I don't know if that answers it, but
I'm curious. So in that conversation, do you keep those choices that they have? Is that confidential to the client?
We don't tell them where.
Okay,
We don't tell them.
Because you're hired by the company to go look, right?
Right.
But you don't share that information
No.
both ways. Okay,
No.
just curious.
No.
That's good to know that it's not like this comes some kind of mean girls thing. Like, oh, we got you. And then we're gonna scuttle that person,
No.
scuttle that.
But on the flip side of that too, if we know it's their top choice, we're going to be like, listen, we know our candidate's interviewing for 3 other CFO jobs. You sit as their top choice. So it also tells them there has to be some time of immediacy too, because, and this is something I think you and I were talking about too, or maybe can get to, your interview process is a reflection of your company. I don't care how good your company is. If your interview process sucks, it doesn't matter. I can tell a candidate all day long about how great your company is, and your candidate, but if your interview process is broken or fragmented, it's like a first date, right? It's like your first indication of how the company works. And if you see how discombobulated they are in the interview process, that doesn't give you a really good feeling. You're like, is this how everything operates here? And I feel like I have to repeat myself over and over and over again when I tell clients that. Like, you lost the candidate because you talked to the candidate 3 weeks ago. I haven't been able to give them any feedback. You didn't give me any feedback until now, and now you want to still know if they're on the market?
Yeah, this used to be one of those things that people are complaining about. I keep going back to LinkedIn because that seems to be the place where people go. They want to figure out where they're going next, right? And one of the things that keeps coming up is the fact that people aren't. There's no respect for the candidate themselves. Now I understand there's a lot of candidates out there, and you can keep track of them all, but if it's just like a web interest form, okay, that's something. Sure. But if you're actually interviewing somebody and you're developing that relationship with them, I think it speaks more to the professionalism of your organization, being the person that's looking for the individual, to be forthcoming with and communicate, almost over communicate, so that they know everything along the way. And I know that we get busy, but yeah, you're right. 3 weeks go by.
Yeah.
In that person's world, that is an eternity.
It is.
Especially if they're not in a job.
Right.
And they're looking for something, right? So it's like, man, I just want to hear something.
Yeah.
To have some kind of trajectory. But yeah, it seems to be that's one of the biggest complaints that's out there is the lack of. Okay, the lack of response, but really it's a lack of respect for the candidates that are coming through, who are genuinely interested in these jobs. And yeah, sure, that some of these candidates, look, they don't have a job, they're looking for anything, and they might actually work out, but they might just need you to sit there for 6, 8, 12 months until they find what they really want to do. We get that, but you're also trying to plug a hole. Right. So if you could have this talent for 8, 12, 16 months, and then, hey, you just know going in, this person might be leaving. Okay, great. Here's what I need you to do. Project-based. Boom, get all this stuff done. Things we wanted to be done for a long time. We have you might be leaving, but if you stay, man, this is great. Sure. But if you leave, it's okay. But yeah, the communication side is something that I've always found. I had that happen to me a long time ago, where it probably about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks into the process, I realized, I'm the other candidate that they're putting up.
You're the bridesmaid. You're the bridesmaid.
I don't have a shot at this one. They already know who they're going to pick, but I'm like one of the other 2 that they said, here's your 3. And so when they come back and they say, hey, yeah, they went a different way, I was like, I knew they were. I knew it. But thanks for nothing, Right. And I never spoke to them again. So I thought that's a really rude way to put people.
I mean, they gave you closure.
I had to beg for that closure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I showed up at that person's wedding, and but you're right. That's I think there's professionalism around the horn, and professionalism. You need to serve your client, but you also need to make sure that the people who are vying for those, even if they might not be the right candidate, have the nuts to tell them, hey, you're not going to make it. The candidates around you are much more qualified. Right. You may want to look for something else. And I'm sure you counsel them in that fashion.
Well, I think it's setting expectations up front too. I would love to say that every client's going to get us this super, long, detailed feedback as to why they didn't choose you. That's not. Does that happen? Sometimes, but rarely. So I think letting a candidate know that on the front end, I'll always give you closure, but you might not get all the detailed closure that you want. But I also think there's an opportunity to really also, I look at it as like some, constructive feedback too. That's presented in the right way.
Okay.
Because if you didn't get the job because of something technical, like, listen, I've got 10 more years experience than you. There's nothing you can do about that, but other being born, 10 years early, right? But if it's something that you did do, that we know that the client told us, like we always tell candidates, you're not like we did a post about this the other day, the overshare. Oh my gosh, you are not part of the team yet. Please do not overshare. And this is something you have to emotionally prepare yourself for. There have been multiple times where clients have been like, we were going to hire him, but he started sharing some weird squirrely story about strippers and you know what I'm saying? We're something they did outside of work for fun or something. And in a room full of females, by the way, which is just, not a good deal. So, I think you have to remember, you have to be you're still interviewing. You're not part of the team yet. If anything, clients and hiring managers are looking for a reason to rule you out, not rule you in. So don't give them one.
Okay.
Right. And
that's good advice.
But I also think that, counseling, if it is something that you did, I'd say the biggest constructive feedback we get is that people don't stay clear, concise, to the point. If I ask you what color the sky is, just tell me it's blue.
All right.
If I want you to expand on it and say, well, what shade of blue it is, then let them expand, especially when you're interviewing with a CFO or a controller. And the most constructive feedback that we get when people get passed on is because if they don't know the answer to the question, they talk around it. I'd say most hiring managers would rather you just say you don't know it, something you're willing to learn, but you just don't know it. Or they talk so long around it tells them something about communication.
Yeah.
If you're a CFO and you come to me and you say, hey, Laurie, what does our gross revenue look like right now? You don't want me to tell you how I got there. You know what I'm saying?
This sheep and this dog, right?
Yeah, exactly. Here's my process. You just want to know what the bottom line is, right? So I think it is a teaching moment sometimes for candidates, especially that are earlier in their career, to stay, we have a whole, we prep every single candidate, both our candidates that work, we're working on the candidate side, and then every single one of our candidates that actually speaks with the client gets to speak who's on the client side, just because we want to give everyone an even playing field, right? So you've talked to me, I know all the little idiosyncrasies about the client, but I also think it is a teaching moment because there are some things there that maybe it wasn't, maybe you did have the right skill set, but maybe it's something that you did, and there's a way to deliver that in a way that's not harsh, but I think is helpful. I actually tell them, if a hiring manager actually takes the time to share that constructive feedback, that actually says a lot about you, because everybody's disappointed.
It means that they liked you.
It means they liked you. They're just not going to hire you. I know that doesn't sound any better, but
stay on LinkedIn.
Exactly, but I think it does, and I try, because everyone's disappointed. When you have to deliver that news, it's my least favorite part of my job, right? Is being hey, they passed on you, but take something from it, take a positive from everything negative, and say, the fact that the hiring manager saw enough value to actually make the time to feel like you can improve something, you have to take some merit in that, right? So.
All right, so you've used these words twice: executive search and retained search.
Right.
In the very beginning of this podcast, you said we would like contingency search.
Yeah.
So define for me what those three are, and how does StevenDouglas, how do you guys do those?
Pretty simple between the two, right? So contingency search, there's a couple different differences, but the biggest difference is contingency search, you don't pay me anything unless I find somebody.
Okay.
So you don't, unless you find someone, it's I don't want to say it's risk-free, but kind of, right?
Okay.
And the guarantee period there is 90 days, which means if anything happens within 90 days, anything at all, we're replacing that person within 90 days. Retained search is usually reserved for what I consider director level and higher. It means you pay us a deposit down on the front end, and then you pay us, we've got a couple different, one of the reasons I came to StevenDouglas is we can get creative based on what the, creative in a good way,
right?
Based on what the client in a legal way, creative in a legal way, because retained search is often known for the traditional third, a third, and a third.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we've had clients that come to us that got burned on that, right? Because they've paid
what is this third?
A third of the fee.
Okay.
So a third of the fee. So unfortunately, they pay the first third, which is non-refundable.
Okay.
They pay the second third, that's non-refundable, and then they're like, we're not really happy with this. We're firing you and moving on. The problem is that they're out 2/3 of that fee.
Okay.
So they come to us and they're like, okay, we need help, but now we're out somewhere between conservatively 50, 60 grand. How are you going to make this work? So StevenDouglas came up with more of a committed search, which means you pay us a deposit down, and you don't pay us the back end until we find somebody.
Okay.
Like I feel like most hiring managers, even me being a former controller, I would feel so much better about writing that check when I actually have like a signed offer letter and someone in the seat, right?
Sure.
Now the guaranteed is different too. So the guarantee on contingency search is just the 90 days, which is just 3 months, which if you're hiring a controller or a CFO, you're going to want more than 3 months, right? It's 6 months for the retained search, which means 6-month guarantee. And depending upon the level of role, we've done some really, really high level CFO searches that are a year guarantee.
So when you say guarantee, that means we're getting in bed together for 6 months, and then if you decide that you don't want us after 3 months, then you're still paying for that 6 months. Is that essentially what it is?
Well, the guarantee is the time that the person's in the role. So when you get hired,
so it's after the person gets
it's after the person gets hired. Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yep. So if you don't last more than 6 months, anything less than 6 months, we're replacing that person for free. Same with 90 days. So the guarantee is on the candidate side. It's on the candidate side of the house. And then, like I said, we have, and we can do the typical, like the third, and the third, because our fees are a percentage of someone's annual base salary.
Okay.
And then for retained search, it's total comp, which means base and bonus. The difference between retained search or committed search is you get more touch points from us as well. So you get a weekly meeting with us where we actually go through everybody we're talking to. You get actually a progress report that shows you every single person we've been talking to. So you get more visibility into the process. It's what you're paying a premium for, really. So,
gotcha.
And typically most of our director level and up positions opt for the retained or the committed search just because of the guarantee period, more touch points, and that's exclusive. That means that no one else is working on that search other than us. Contingency can be contingency exclusive or non-exclusive, which means they can go and hire other firms. Or
so basically, the first one that brings the candidate wins.
Exactly.
Okay.
I try not to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's pretty frustrating for you too, because if you have this superstar candidate and it's like, well, we just hired so and so yesterday.
Yeah.
Like now you have this great candidate who's like ready to rock and roll. It's like, okay, where do we place this person?
I try to negotiate contingency exclusive. Sometimes you have to, especially if it's a new client, you need some proving ground. They're like, well, why would I go with you exclusively? And I'm like, because didn't you see my bio? No, I'm just.
Nice.
Didn't you see like the 120 references I have on LinkedIn?
I party at soccer.
Yeah,
arenas.
exactly. Yeah. But sometimes they are, I think sometimes we can tell them all day long about how great we are and how many great people we have, but until we actually show them, so I'm always open to some type of proving ground scenario too. But I'm not working on something when there's we're not a staffing firm. If you're going to engage us in 7 other firms, we're not the right. We're not there. If you're just looking for resumes, then that's a completely different structure.
So a question for you, so there's a lot of talent out there. They're in the middle of their career, let's say about 10, 15 years in. They're just looking for something different. And it's not that they're unhappy. They just want maybe to learn something new, want to add something to their portfolio, what have you. When you have that type of body of talent, how do you engage them? So if someone were to, I know you work for clients, but let's say someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm looking for something. Laurie, I'm looking for something. What would you do for them? Do you take on clients like that? Do you just individual clients that come to you and say, hey, I'm looking for something? You just said you're not basically a monster.com.
Right.
But what if you had executives that came to you or controllers, directors, whatever, and saying, look, I know that you're not my advocate, but do you have a job board? Do you do things like that where you will say, hey, you know what? I can probably place you with these individuals. How do you make that connection?
Well, even you mentioned, we work for the client, but at the end of the day, I can have a million job orders, and if I don't have the trust and respect of my candidates, it doesn't matter, right?
Okay.
It's like you mentioned product. I mean, they're not product, but it doesn't matter. I can have a million job orders, but if we don't actually have the talent, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So actually, I am their advocate, and I am actually have to really build that rapport and trust them. That's typically how we get 90% of our candidates. You'll see our posts out there, but that's really for marketing and advertising reasons, because most of our business is a lot of referral business, and for me being in a newer market, I need to have us everywhere.
Sure.
I need to have us everywhere. Because often it's as simple as this. I'll have a client that actually come to us and be like, listen, I see you everywhere, so I feel like I need to be working with you. Or on the flip side, a candidate be like I didn't see any posts that align with my skill set, but I feel like I see you guys so many places. I feel like I need to I feel like I need to know you, right?
Okay.
So I really drill into what they're looking for. Most of our candidates are passive candidates, which means they're not running from anything. They're running to something. And I love when a candidate tells me, hey, I mean, a lot of times they apologize up front. They're like, I'm just going to let you know I'm going to be a little picky. And I'm like, well, I like picky, because picky means for me that when you sign that offer letter, you mean it. There is nothing thing worse in this business is having someone sign an offer letter and then call you the day before and be like, yeah, I'm not going to start tomorrow.
Well, then, so
you know?
if I'm the client, I hire StevenDouglas to come in, and I'm looking for a specific role, because what you guys are looking for are specific experienced individuals. Is that right?
Sure.
That's
for the most part, yeah.
That's your bailiwick. So if that's the case, where do you go to find those candidates? Are these advertisements that you're saying, or do you have a stable of just people that are saying, hey, Laurie, I'm interested. If something comes up, I'm ready to rock and roll. Like, how do you do that?
Both. So we have people that we're on so we target recruit, which means one of the reasons you're coming to me is because maybe you've put up a post. Maybe you've tried to use your network and you're like, listen, I'm tapped out. Like I kept not finding anybody. Now I'm running out of time. Now it's starting to weigh on my team, right?
Yeah.
So you're coming to us. So sometimes we'll have, depending upon the role, sometimes we'll have people that we already have been talking to about other roles that actually fit that particular search. But sometimes you're coming to us specifically for something very, very specific. Like I remember working on a search, I need somebody who is a Portuguese-speaking controller, but is from Brazil. You know what I'm saying? Like, awesome. Because they wanted to be able to actually send that controller to Brazil to actually talk to CPA firms about, there were some differences at the time between Brazilian GAAP and US GAAP, and they were having a hard time, like, with consolidate, so sometimes they come to us because it's that specific, right?
Okay.
But sometimes we actually happen to have people that we've already been talking to about other jobs. The posts that we put out there, I mean, honestly, I have posts, but they all go into like one file folder. I rarely, once in a while, you'll get a decent candidate off that, but even the CEO of LinkedIn, who I saw on MSNBC or on NBC, said the quality of LinkedIn resumes are probably like maybe 25 to 30% of the people actually match the job description.
They say AI hallucinates.
Yeah. He even said that. He's like, so we really target recruit, which means we're going out, we're seeking the passive job seekers that are like, not running from anything, but are maybe open to the conversation about, what, and then we do have people that come to us as well.
And who are those individuals? Because so a client comes to you and says, I need X. You turn around and go, okay, who do we have in our portfolio who matches at least 90% of that criteria, right? How do you build that portfolio? How do people come to you so that you have a stable of candidates to pitch?
It's doing things like this.
Okay.
StevenDouglas. But we do a lot of networking. Like I'm a member of the Texas chapter of CPAs, part of FEI. So it's getting out there, being visible, literally kind of getting our name out there, going to like referrals. I love a good referral. That's developing relationships with CFOs, controllers, like referrals, those kind of things. But it's literally, we use LinkedIn because that's a platform today. So literally doing, like specific targeted search based on skill set, and then like literally not stalking them, but like, because the first time you reach out to a really quality candidate, they typically won't respond. You actually, the differentiator is that you reached out 2 or 3 times, right? Okay. And then you actually talk to them about whether they're open to the search or not. So it's a lot of networking. It's a lot of making sure that we're in a lot of these groups that actually make sense. Like I also am part of Texas Wall Street Women, which is a finance. Cool. You would love this organization. Yeah. So everything that we do, because we do mentorship. And
do you own guns?
No, we don't own guns.
You need guns if you're in Texas.
Guns, I know.
I mean, it sounds like a Republican thing.
I mean, it's not. But it is we are not for profit, and then all the money that we put into it actually goes back to actually help girls get into finance and accounting career paths, which is super cool.
Love it.
So groups like that as well. So it's really kind of getting out there and really meeting with people and developing those relationships, because if you've got one great candidate, they probably can refer you like 4 or 5 other really great candidates as well. So it's a little bit of, it's not an exact science, but it is about your presence. It is about making sure that you're, like I said, we have the traditional job posts, but that's not really what a client's paying us for. A client's like, I've done that, been there, done that. Like, I need you to actually help me like find something I can't find out myself.
So when I keep going back to when you say client, you're talking about a company who's hiring you to go and find people, find talent for a specific position or positions, right? So you are at a Chamber of Commerce event, all right? Someone comes up to you and is like, hey, Laurie, I know you work for StevenDouglas. I'm an accounting and finance professional. I'm just kind of looking for something different. How would you onboard me into your stable to all of a sudden, hey, here are all the things that might be available to you?
Sure.
How would you do that?
So I say, let's not talk right now because we're like at a Chamber of Commerce event, which is like mind-numbing, I'm sure. I've been to them. And then we schedule a separate time.
Okay.
So we talk to every single, so much of this is common sense to me, but there's so many firms out there that this isn't common sense. I think most recently, because of rush to market, We have other firms that actually never even talk to their candidates, submit the resume without asking them first. There's no AICP roles in recruiting. I kind of wish there was. I'll be like a whistleblower like 10 times
honor
over.
among thieves?
Yeah, no, oh God. So we say, hey, let's find a time where we can talk. And we really do talk about like, what are you looking for? What's your reason looking for? And even if we don't have anything for them, often just because one of the differentiators with StevenDouglas is we don't hire people that don't know their market. So for instance, we don't say, oh, we want to be in Texas. Let's send Elizabeth from Florida because she's good. We're going to put her in a Texas into a market she doesn't know and be successful. That's our differentiator. Is I kind of look at it like you get the best of both worlds. So you get local boutique, like that's why we feel very boutique-ish. Because you get local market intel. But I also know what's not in Austin, Texas, like SEC reporting. Austin, Texas. We have 50 publicly traded companies.
Keep Austin weird.
We have 50 publicly traded companies, right? And like 2 or 3 of them are biotechs, which are like literally in research stage and basically are pre-revenue and just fund themselves with stock. So I don't even count those, okay, right? Awesome. When I'm looking for like a director of SEC reporting, I mean, one of the reasons I came to StevenDouglas, 19 years of doing it in Austin, not only do I know who's here, I know what's not here. And then that pool is even smaller because I'm like, well, culture fit wise, this is who doesn't match, who hasn't bounced around from job to job, and who hasn't lied to me about something, right? So I know I can go out to the 150 other recruiters in StevenDouglas and say, who wants to be in Austin, Texas, right? So I think really knowing your market is really key. So when you get a candidate like that, even if you don't have something for them, we call it MPCing, which means like marketing you to a client with your permission where you have something they want. I literally just did this. I have a guy who moved to Austin, Texas, who has all semiconductor experience. He moved there for a large, very, very large, multi-billion-dollar, I have to be careful because I think Austin's small, but very, very large semiconductor company, and they have a new CEO change. They created a job. He's an FP&A guy, but definitely much more focused on the sales ops side of the house, right? And so the CEO is like, yeah, I don't really want to do that function anymore. He's like, well, so we're eliminating that. And he's like, what? I just moved my family here and things like that. So now he's in Austin, Texas, in a mid-market town with all, like he worked at like Texas Instruments, like has all this really big, large publicly traded semiconductor experience. And he's like, now what, right? So the knowledge just means an example because as all of our recruiters in StevenDouglas, I already know what companies in town would like that talent, right? So I said, with your permission, I'm literally having a coffee with the CFO from like this week. Can I bring your resume with me? And then I said, and I'm also talking to another CFO from another semiconductor company. And there's no job there, let's just be clear, right? It's more about clients. I know that they could see where he would add value from day one. They may have something he wants. So he's like, sure. So I brought his resume, CFO, and then sent him over to the other CFO from the other semiconductor, and he has 2 interviews this week.
Fantastic.
So, and again, it's because...
And that was just off a conversation, or that was something that you brought him in for an organization, it just didn't work out? Like the job was there, he moved the family, and then
that wasn't through us. That was on his own.
Fair.
Yeah, that wasn't us.
So I guess what I'm getting to is that when people listen to this, and in the show notes, there's going to be connections to not only StevenDouglas, but possibly to your office in particular, to the Atlanta office, right? So the question is that if I, as a professional, am listening to this and I go, you know what, I think I might be in for a change. I've got a pretty good background, or maybe I just want to know, am I even marketable in this particular area? Or maybe I'm looking to move somewhere. What kind of opportunities are there? I don't want to send people to you if that's not what you're looking for.
No, that's what we want. That's absolutely what we want.
So then the question is that if they were to follow the link that's going to be in the show notes and they get to somebody at StevenDouglas, like that process. Are they filling out a web form? Are they just having a coffee with you? I mean, what's that process look like? Because I think that there might be some people that are extremely interested in having these types of conversations, but never have actually thought they were qualified enough to have this conversation. So they're kind of just they're in their cubicle, they're doing their thing, and they never thought that there were opportunities out there just for them. Because they've never looked up and looked around, right? So if someone's listening to this and they go to the show notes, they click on that, what is that expectation? What does that onboarding process look like to finally talk to you guys?
We don't have a web form.
Okay, no web forms. Okay.
I mean, we're much more personal.
You have an app?
No, we're much more personal than that, right?
Swipe right.
If anything, it's like, because sometimes candidates are a little reluctant about just because of confidentiality of their search, right? And they're like, listen, I would love to have a conversation with you, but I don't want to quite share my resume. I just want to know a little bit more where you're about. And that's kind of on us, right? So it really depends on candidate availability. If you want to do a virtual with us or a phone call or a coffee, that just really depends. Because 90% of the candidates we're working with are working. So we try to be like conscious of their schedule. Like I know for me, like I had a bad experience with a recruiter before I was a recruiter, which almost didn't make me even think about being a recruiter, because this guy would like call me, I was a controller and I sat next to the CEO's office, okay? He knew that I didn't even leave my desk for lunch. So he would call me 24/7 in the office. I'm like, dude, if I leave and
Laurie,
step out,
Laurie, get in here.
If I step out, they would be like, he'd be like, where are you going? Like, you never step out, right? So it used to drive me crazy. So we try to be really conscious of that, especially if their search is really confidential.
Sure.
Like, you tell me what works for you.
Sure.
Like, and then we really get to know them, and then we're very honest about, maybe you aren't, maybe you're not ready for a change. But I also think that you should always, even if you're not actively looking, I think you should always have your head like up.
Yep.
As far as, and I'll give
know
you
your worth.
Yeah, and
right?
I hate to throw Dell under the bus again, but Dell, I would tell you, Dell,
they make fantastic products.
They make great products, but
continue.
they like to do like cyclical riffs.
Okay.
And there's been people there that I think always thought they had a network, but when that rift comes up, they realize their entire network is within Dell, which doesn't help it. If you and I are rift and we're networked, I need a job. I'm not helping you. You're not helping me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
survival of the fittest now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's an example of, like, you might think that you have your head up and networked, but you make sure it's outside of your current location, because some of them have been there.
That's really good advice.
It's
That's
really
good advice.
And for comp and everything else. I mean, I have CFOs that call me that are not looking, but they're like, hey, Laurie, I just need can you give me like an idea? I'm like, I in market, I'm gonna go negotiate with my boss. I need to know what's real. And I think that's the difference with us too. Like, salary guides are great, but I have never seen one that can stay in real time. And I think the difference is when a CFO picks me up and picks up the call and says, not only is it your time, but some of them are really long, like 36 pages. Like, if you have kids, like, I don't know I felt like, when you're in the doctor's office and he's telling you like where your kid is on the range, and you walk out of there and you're like, is my kid normal? I don't know if my kid's on the range or not, right? I feel like that's a salary guide. Like, you read through it, it's typically, they're mostly kind of inconsistent. You can't, at the end of the time, by the time you read through it, you're not really sure where you should be falling, and they're never really industry specific or like revenue size specific. So I tell people anytime, whether you're a client or not, and you want to know what's in real time, like, hey, I want to promote someone internally, they're a senior accountant, this is what they're making. Laurie, am I flying high? Am I flying low? I want to promote them. I want to give them something. This is their background. This is the size company that we are. I think that having that really good local intel in real time, like what I'm actually seeing out there, is super. And I think everybody should always have their pulse on that, because when something comes like that, like those people, like the last riff they did, those are my favorite placements of last year. I placed 2 people, and they weren't my highest fee.
Yeah.
They were my 2 Dell lifers that had been there for 20-something years, and literally were like,
what do I do?
Now what?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people look at them as just big company people. What they don't understand is Dell's a little bit more siloed than you would think. I think they think on the finance side of the house that you can.
Oh my gosh,
well,
that's a can of worms I want to open right now. I totally want to. Can we shift gears on this?
Sure,
you just
absolutely.
So, what do you do when you have a super qualified candidate that is almost overqualified for the jobs that they're looking for, but they just want to get into something? They want to have that next step, and it may not like Nick Aracco and I talk about this a lot. Yeah. The corporate ladder, when you get to a certain part in your career, it's not about moving up the ladder. It's more of like the lattice work of how can you move horizontally across this lattice, so that you can just maybe there's just a certain part of the business you've always wanted to learn, and it's over there, and salary wise it's probably gonna be the same. You might actually take a little bit of salary hit, but it's something interesting, right?
Sure.
What do you do with those candidates that come to you that are really overqualified for the job? You're like, hey, I think you might be a little bored here. And like, no. I just want to do this for the next 2-3 years of my career. What do you do with those people?
So we need to be the storyteller, right?
Okay.
So because if you're the hiring manager, you're going to say the same thing, right? If I submit a candidate, you'd be like, Laurie, this candidate, I said 10 years, you just gave me somebody with 30, right? So we've got to be able to back that up, and I need to really understand that from the candidate, like, why? Tell me your why. Like, is it that you, like, I have some of my candidates right now that are having to, basically take care of aging parents, or, or those kind of things. Like, I need to know your why, because if it's not your why, then to my client, you're going to look at like possibly a risk, because and I get that, especially someone who's been caught up in a riff or who's unemployed. Companies are worried that they're, I don't want to say desperate's a bad word, but that they're just taking any job to take any job. And granted, I know you have to work, and I know you need to earn money, but I can't put you somewhere where as soon as you get that comp that you really wanted, that title that you wanted, that you're going to jump. So let's talk about it. But there are places where people get to, like, hey, I have one candidate in Austin. She's like my best rev rec person. She was a revenue manager for like SaaS, like Austin, that's like hot skill set, like rev recognition, ASC 606,
and
the whole deal. Exactly. Like, you talk about SaaS, like I could put her anywhere. She was a manager for 25 years. She is sick of people and told me that and doesn't want to manage people anymore. She just wants to be an individual contributor. She's willing to stay lateral on comp, but she has no desire to manage people. I had to literally have that conversation.
I get that. I totally understand
and
that.
And a client gets that. You just have to be able to tell the story. Like, we don't just send a resume, because based on resume, you'd be like, I don't get it, right? Yeah. But you have to be able to kind of like tell that person's why, just as much on the client side. A client side, I need to be able to, I tell clients all the time, you need to tell me, I need to know your story. Like, we're your advocate, so I need to be able to explain why your company is better than ABC company and any other company, right? But transparency is really important too. You know, I can work with broken, I can't work with lack of transparency. I mean, we've worked with companies, if a company won't tell us about their turnover, let's say inexplicable turnover, you've had 3 CFOs in 6 months, I'm like, I can't help you. Like, but because of our market knowledge, to be honest, we probably already know that's probably, we're probably like, I'm glad I dodged that bullet. Yeah. But sometimes we've worked with companies that are, like, I've worked with companies that are delisted by the SEC, coming out of bankruptcy, because every candidate is looking for something different. We just need to let them know what it looks like on the front end. I think that's one of a candidate's biggest complaints, is that they didn't know going in. You know, I walked in there and then I realized, oh my gosh, like, their cash flow isn't what I thought it was, or their financials weren't what I thought it was, or I didn't realize that they had so much turnover. And that's kind of where we're like, this is so, I use this, like, we're your Jerry Maguire, right? Like, you know,
go with me. He's taking a fish.
Exactly.
Do you have fish?
Exactly. But, you know, help me help you, help me help, you know, that kind of thing, right? So we are your advocate, but I think it's a really important for us to have transparency on both sides. I mean, candidates lie to me. They lie to me about having their CPA license. They lie to me about it being active.
How do you lie about that?
Well, you know what? A lot of recruiting firms don't check those.
Oh, they don't?
Things. No.
Oh, wow. Do they do background checks, like real background checks?
A lot of them don't do background checks. A lot of them don't do references. Like, I won't work with somebody who won't.
You hear that, everybody? You can get away with it.
Well, and I always ask the same question twice. Like, is your CPA license active? It's not going to rule you out of this job. I just need to know if it's active or not. It's just a test for me, really. Yeah. And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so let's just be clear. You have all your CPs and everything. And they'll be like, yeah, Laurie, I'm good. And then I go and check it. And now, if it hasn't been active in like 3 months, I get it, like, whatever. But if it hasn't been active in like 30 years, we have a problem, because you lied to me and I'm kind of done with you, right? So, because there's probably a lot more there to the story. And I ask it twice for a reason. So, you know, but yeah, people, I mean, I love people. But,
so is that your tell? If you ask it twice, then you don't believe me the first time I said it?
Yeah, typically.
So, okay, so this has been a fantastic conversation. I do want to talk just a little bit about StevenDouglas as an entity, because you have obviously said a bunch of different things in ways StevenDouglas is different from, I would say, the competition.
Sure.
You certainly do have competition in executive search, and so what sets StevenDouglas apart?
So I think going back to, I hate to revert back to, but I have so many times people are like, you never feel as big as you are. And to me, that's like a huge compliment, to be honest, because I don't think anyone ever feels like they're a number here. We still have that very, very like hands-on boutique customer service feel. And it is because of the way that we're built. Like I said, we hire people that already know the markets, can speak to the market, know the players, know the cultures, know the compensation. Like, we are literally experts in our market, but then we also have the bandwidth and the support of this much larger firm. So we kind of have the strength of a bigger firm, so that when you want to do a national search, I mean, for me, it was a little bit of a transition, because I was from a small local boutique firm, and now coming here, you know, companies are like, oh my gosh, now you can like actually do national search for me. Like, I'm so excited to do that, right? So, and it's, I mean, it really does, it makes us different. A lot of my competitors, they know Austin might be a hot market, so they just send like somebody like, and they're like, oh, go try to build the Austin market. And every market's different. My market specifically in Central Texas is very relationship driven. So 19 years of doing it for sure. And we look for experienced people, professionals. Like, there are different recruiting firms for everybody. I would say StevenDouglas is not a recruiting firm where you're going to be an entry-level recruiter. Like, you got to kind of, like, when I got here and I saw all the stellar people, I was like, damn, I got to bring it. I got to bring it. I got to step on my game, right? I mean, that's why I came here as well, was really an opportunity to, I've learned something from everybody here. Our culture and how we treat each other is how we treat our clients. I think there's an ethical and professional perspective. I mean, even though we do a lot of things other than accounting and finance, our founder, StevenDouglas, was, and he's still involved in the business.
Awesome.
He's the most caring, most wonderful man on the planet. I mean, he was a PwC guy that was literally like, I don't want to work for anyone else. I just want to work for myself, right?
So tone at the top is of a good nature, and that brings all the way through the culture of the people, not only who are working with you, but also the people that you're looking for to represent you inside your clients.
Absolutely. I mean, they encourage us. Like, if something doesn't feel right, you have the experience in your market and you don't feel right, like walk away from it. Like ethics and professionalism are like of our highest regard.
We need to make money, but it's not worth that.
It's not worth that. Well, because at the end of the day, I think since most of us have been on the other side, I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. And you can't unknow what you know, right? And I think, and sometimes we learn that, we work with a client where you're like, now that I know that, I would never work, so sometimes we learn over time. Yeah. And we don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Because we work a lot of companies that are pre-event or private equity or VC, but we can give you an understanding of what you're walking into today. So I think being transparent and honest is really, I think that's our real differentiator. And then again, like our technical acumen, like I think and I'll use this as an example because I didn't have this. So I was a controller and I went to an accounting and finance recruiting firm. I would assume the guy would know accounting and finance recruiting. And the first question he asked me was, can you explain to me your GAAP experience?
What?
And I'm like, my what? And he goes, GAAP. And I'm like, you mean GAAP? And he goes, well, they say it both ways. I'm like,
no, they don't. No, they don't.
And I said, I'm going to give you a little hint. You work in an accounting and finance recruiting firm. Don't say it that way anymore. And he fought me on it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And he's the same guy. I learned a lot of the things that I learned because I don't ever want a candidate to feel like I felt. Yeah. He was submitting my resume without asking me first. My search was confidential. My resume landed on the desk of the firm that we were using to do our taxes as a controller. And the partner
Did you get the job?
No. Well, the partner called me and goes, I didn't know you wanted to be back in tax. I'm like, why do you know that? So I think there are, a lot of those things I've kind of learned just because I don't ever want anybody to feel that way. And I think the difference is we care. I do care. I do care where I place you. Like, I want to make sure it's the right thing for you. When something doesn't work out, it's like, I want to make it right, So I think that's the difference too. And I think that's probably the worst rap that recruiters get. I mean, and to be honest, most of our recruiters are actually all of our recruiters are very tenured in this business. You don't last in this business if you're not doing it in a professional and ethical way.
You are a professional dealing with professionals.
Exactly.
And so that mutual respect is there.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, you have a job to do, which is to fit that spot with a candidate that has the requisite experiences, what have you. So your responsibility is to service your client.
Right.
However, from what I've heard is that if there's some opportunities that I'm looking for, I'm just kind of, I didn't know that there were opportunities. I come to StevenDouglas, say, hey, I think I might want to kind of figure out what's out there.
Sure.
Then you guys also have that ability to say, all right, here's some of the, I don't know if you have to probably sign before you do, it's all NDAs and things like that. You don't just throw out companies that are looking. But we have some opportunities that might fit you. Are you interested in doing this?
Sure.
So on both sides, that's hard to build both sides of a market. But it sounds like you guys have done spectacularly, over 41 years?
Yeah, 41 years.
Yeah. So you're from Texas. We have some Atlanta people here at the live audience they're about to applaud right now. Look at that. I think you've done a great job, and so you're a great representative of StevenDouglas. I would definitely next time I'm in the Texas area because Texas is your entire footprint.
Yes.
I'm definitely gonna have to stop by and see what you guys are all up to. And but no, thank you so much, Laurie, for being here.
I'll take you to Tecovas. I'll have you meet the CFO.
Oh, yeah, well, I got to take off these areas. Wink. No, I'm super excited to have you, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge because I think that this is something that is on the hearts and minds of all finance and accounting professionals. What else is out there? But I don't think that they understand that truly there are people out there looking out for their best interest.
Absolutely.
A lot of times accountants are the ones that we are the ones that are kind of playing the moms and the dads in the organization. We are the adults in the room.
Right.
We never really take care of ourselves. Right. So there are people out there who want to take care of us too. And I think that's what StevenDouglas brings to our industry. So. Thank you for being here.
I love how you described that too. That was
TM, right? So
exactly.
Business, Biceps, and BS. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
See ya.
We take a lot of time up front trying to get to know our clients and their business lines so that we can go out and really understand that. It's not about a search for us, it's about the long-term relationship.
It's more of a, hey, we want you to be a part of this for the long haul, and it's really cool to see your work in action over a long period of time. you become a true partner. And I think that's, to me, what recruiting is. If I feel at all it's a transaction, I actually want to step away. And if I hear the folks on my team actually sounding like they're making a transaction, I want them to realize that, if you don't make money today, most likely if you treat that person with respect and you show them that you're the smartest person on the street, the hardest working person on the street, you will then get more business, whether that's directly or indirectly.
When you could call the same company 5 years from now and 10 years from now and 15 years from now and have the same people working on your jobs and that already know your company, already know your culture, already know what a great fit is in your business, that really makes a huge difference for our clients and our candidates.